Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. We are going to be talking about Taylor Swift today. I know, I know, but hear me out, okay? Um, the thing about Taylor Swift that has always bothered me was her ability to appear so authentic, genuine, and perfect. You'll never see Taylor getting arrested for a DUI or something like anything like what has befallen many of her peers in the music industry. Um, Taylor always appears very well put together, and she comes off as very sweet and innocent. And I have, to be fair, no bias against Taylor. I find some of her music quite catchy, so I'm not coming at this from a I don't like Taylor Swift perspective or, oh, I'm a Swiftie. I'm neither. I don't dislike her. I do think her Swifties are a little bit goofy, but that's about it. So this is just my personal perspective of what I've observed. Um, I think also that some of the criticisms of Taylor have been unfair, yet there is something about Swift that is different from other celebrities who also have the same kinds of management teams that are dedicated to cultivating a public persona. What is it about Taylor that seems like a red flag? Well, she seems a little too perfect. To a certain extent, this is to be expected with the music industry. They're selling a product at the end of the day. Celebrities are always presented to the public as idealized characters, quote unquote, designed to be marketed to a demographic expected to generate revenue and create a brand that can last and generate revenue for quite some time. And I would say that compared to her peers in the music industry, Taylor outshines and outperforms them on every metric. She was recently minted as a billionaire following her Eras tour, which was wildly successful. She has amassed so much power that one could argue she is the music industry, yet simultaneously, she's been able to maintain this victimized narrative. Just watch her documentary Miss Americana on Netflix to get an understanding of what I'm talking about. Now, you'll see here I've got some pictures up of her famous romances. There's going to be a reason for that, and we'll get into that in a moment here. When Taylor first appeared on the scene, she appeared as a talented young country music artist, and she was sold to the public as an average American small town girl who grew up on a quaint Christmas tree farm. Now, there is some truth to this. Taylor did grow up on a Christmas tree farm that sprawled across 11 acres, and she was born rich. Her father, Scott Swift, was a successful financial advisor and marketing executive. Scott Swift comes from 3 generations of bank presidents. Now, I just thought this was interesting as on the height chart here of her boyfriends, but it just shows you some of the famous boyfriends she's had. Taylor has always presented herself as sincere. This is another thing. We can go back to this picture of her and Kanye when this happened back in 2000. I believe it was 2009. She was very young at the time, and everybody felt sorry for her, but she's always presented herself as sincere. If you look at her social media, right, look at her Instagram, especially her Tumblr, her Twitter, her she's always posting pictures and videos of herself hanging out with her friends. She does these kind of quirky, goofy things. She'll lip sync on Instagram. She'll take silly selfies. She does the cringe Tumblr posting. To her fans, she feels like she's just like them, a friend. But if you look a little deeper, you begin to see everything about her is carefully crafted, curated, and presented for public consumption. This is brand management at its finest. Everything she does is designed to make her appear relatable, approachable, personable. Taylor cultivates a very intense fandom, and she loves leaving them Easter eggs in her music for them to constantly decode, and they endlessly speculate about what certain songs are about. Taylor took the country world by storm as this like sweet little girl singing about her teardrops on my guitar. And then she made the effortless shapeshift into a full-blown pop star. Taylor has managed to maintain this image, though, of being like a young girl, innocent, naive, bullied, taken advantage of, victimized, and then maligned by a hypercritical media. One might almost forget that she is now a massively rich and powerful adult woman in her 30s. Swift is always the victim in every narrative she spins. When it comes to her string of high-profile romantic relationships, Taylor has exploited them all for her art. Some of these relationships with male celebrities she seemingly has nothing in common with almost appear to have been publicity stunts designed to garner attention. How many of these were even real relationships, and how many were public relations ploys? Um, this is in publicity ploys. Like, this is something that we can consider, I think. And I believe it's fair to consider these things and to speculate on them, because Taylor herself has invited this in the way that she makes her entire musical persona about this victimized narrative and talking about these relationships where she's been wronged. But the thing about Taylor's relationships is that they almost don't feel real. They all seem to have like calculated, they all seem to have been calculated decisions, don't they? Like there seems to be like this calculated nature about the relationship, like the timing of each of these relationships. It's I don't even know if the men seem to understand this. Some of them seem to, but some of them don't even seem to understand it. Like that they're following a pattern, right? And the pattern is like a male celebrity, whether that's an actor or a musician, has something happen in their career, like a Joe Jonas or Taylor Lautner. They date, quote unquote, Taylor Swift for a while. Then there is like a dramatic breakup, and Taylor, who's always the victimized one, pretty much goes on to write an album alluding to the relationship, never blatantly saying it, right? She'll write different songs. She likes to leave these Easter eggs, and she will kind of make it clear who she's talking about, but in a way where she's able to maintain sort of like plausible deniability. These flings then go on to be the subject of endless speculation. Swift makes it appear that there was like this deep emotional connection that came about organically and then ended and left her devastated and genuinely heartbroken. Now, this isn't to suggest that Taylor Swift has never had a real relationship or has never experienced true love or real heartbreak before. I'm sure she has, and I don't mean to suggest otherwise. However, some of these quote-unquote relationships seem to have lasted little more than a few months and consist of like 2 or 3 highly publicized dates, quote-unquote. So the idea that you could, in such a short time, like fall in love with somebody, have a deep connection with them, then go through this, dramatic breakup where you're heartbroken and writing these songs about it. There's something about that seems a little bit not real. Like she writes these kind of fairy tale romance stories, right? And her songs are good, and I'm sure that they resonate with lots of people. She's a very talented lyricist, but it appears to me that she's kind of living different lives. She's got the public persona of Taylor Swift, and then the real Taylor, who I think most people have never met and don't know. The thing that strikes me about her writing is the kind of unreal quality in which she describes these like storybook romances. For anyone that's been in a real long-term relationship or a marriage, if you've had kids with someone, you know it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So there seems to be this sort of shallowness to these ballads, and even her breakup songs don't seem to hit on real emotions of loss, grieving, and pain that is felt. It comes off more as someone perpetually in the mind of a teenager that is kind of whiny, self-involved, bitter, and sometimes it appears outright petty. Some of the things that she has written in her lyrics. They seem to lack an emotional maturity that should be expected of a grown woman that is constantly learning and evolving over time. And again, I think it's fair to talk about this because she shamefully exploits these relationships for her art without asking her exes how they feel about sharing sometimes deeply personal things. It's almost like she makes it a sole focus of her musical persona. Yet she plays the victim when the media mentions these relationships. She cries foul. She claims she's only being criticized because she is a woman. She cries that she is being SLUT shamed. She cries how, oh, the media endlessly speculates on who I'm dating, so I had to create my girl boss squad. And then they started speculating on that. And she's fair. To be fair to her, she's right. Yes, the media does endlessly speculate about this, but she invited it herself, and she herself exploits these things, and she will, write them into her music. So I think that the idea that they should be off limits, like she should be special compared to every other celebrity who also has experienced intense media scrutiny. Why is she uniquely special and a victim here, I guess is the question, because she has always had that public persona of, oh, she's unfairly been criticized. People have wanted to take her down just for being a strong woman. And I think that Taylor also has done very good at not only shifting these genres, but of maintaining like this carefully crafted persona where she has avoided talking a lot about politics and things that might alienate her fan base. Although in her recent documentary, it was very stunning and brave for her to want to, repeat Democrat talking points about conservatives. And she was upset that her dad was telling her, oh no, that wouldn't be good for business. And she's like, I need to be on the right side of history. So you could tell that she has this intense care about her public image, how she's being presented, what people think of her, what people are saying about her. And she did that one song, You Need to Calm Down, where she's basically smearing more Christian and conservative people as being paranoid and bigoted. And it's, again, very shallow understanding of how people really are. I think that Taylor is incredibly adept at manipulating others. Her anthem, Anti-Hero, is a remarkable expression of not only her awareness of her narcissism, but her ability to think she can pull one over on her audience. A narcissist would never have the self-awareness to say that they are the problem. No, a narcissist knows that is what you would say. An unaware narcissist indeed wouldn't identify themselves as the problem, and they wouldn't say, oh, am I a narcissist? Look at all this self-awareness I have. An aware narcissist might do it to garner sympathy and cast herself as the victim of real narcissist and a victim of narcissistic abuse. So, that Anti-Hero song, if you listen to it without critically examining Swift and her background, you might think that she has been the victim of all these narcissists, and she's describing narcissistic abuse. And indeed, she has fooled many therapists, many people who comment on narcissism. They have commented on that song specifically as like identifying her as a victim of narcissistic abuse rather than a perpetrator. Taylor is an expert at maintaining the mask and facade, in my opinion, but there are times when the mask does slip. Narcissists, for example, cannot handle criticism. When you say something to them that is critical, they really don't like it because narcissists are very fragile deep inside. They can't, it's not even just criticism they can't handle. It's like any feedback that they disagree with. It doesn't even have to be negative feedback. When you say anything to them that is critical, they perceive it as a direct attack on them. They are hypersensitive to criticism. They get so offended. And the reason they get so offended is because deep down, they know the truth about themselves. So they take it as like a direct criticism, even if it's meant to simply be constructive. But narcissists love to criticize and judge others. And yet they can't handle it when someone chooses to give them criticism. So they have these double standards. Now, I want to play a clip here from the Golden Globes. This was...
Welcome back.
This was hosted this year by a guy named, I think his name is CoJooy. He is not a funny individual. Let's just get that out immediately, because I want to provide some context to this and be fair to Taylor in that nobody really, I don't think this guy was funny. I don't really think people were laughing at its jokes. But he made this joke, and it wasn't, in my opinion, even directed necessarily at Taylor. But she gives that icy stare reaction, and you can tell she doesn't like it.
As you know, we came on after a football doubleheader. The big difference between the Golden Globes and the NFL, on the Golden Globes, we have fewer camera shots of Taylor Swift. I swear. There's just more to go to here. Sorry about that.
And so he saw maybe the icy stare she gave with that cutaway clip, and he apologized, and it was such a, innocuous comment. He said nothing negative about Taylor. He literally was pointing out how the NFL has been exploiting her relationship with Travis Kelce, or at least that's how it appeared of what he was doing. But you look at the look on her face. What do you see about the micro expressions and the tenseness here? I mean, is this a normal reaction, or is it an overreaction? Now, there are people saying, oh, she's not overreacting. She's literally just existing. She's just taking a sip of her drink. Then there are other people calling it a mood and a vibe. And, they call her their queen or whatever. And I just think that that's ridiculous. I think that there are narcissists get really defensive, or they get really angry when somebody criticizes them or gives them feedback. To them, because they feel superior but also inferior, they're thinking, how dare you? Who do you think you are? And they will then play the victim, and you'll have to apologize to them for hurting their feelings. They can and will employ their flying monkeys. Even if they don't get you back right away, they have your name marked on their list, and you're going to pay for that, for criticizing them in public, especially in public. That upsets
Unfortunately,
them.
Martin Scorsese is...
Now, Chelsea Handler apparently used to date this guy, CoJooy, and she does her little monologue here, taking a jab at him on behalf of Taylor. One could say she's coming to her defense as a flying monkey
here tonight, but that's not going to stop me from letting everyone in this room know that I would toss him around like a little Italian meatball.
And see, she's not funny either, though. I didn't find her jokes funny, but people are laughing at them, and maybe that's because she's a woman. I don't know. I just didn't find it funny either.
Thank you for laughing at that. My writers wrote it.
I wrote somebody's, and they're the ones you're laughing at. Look.
Thank you for laughing at that. My writers wrote it.
Again, it's just sort of like, okay, neither of you are funny, in my opinion.
Big difference between the Golden Globes and the NFL. On the Golden Globes, we have fewer camera shots of Taylor Swift. I swear. There's just more to go to here.
This is where most comedians would make some sort of May-December joke about Leonardo DiCaprio's dating preferences.
So what she's trying to say here is like, oh, Leonardo DiCaprio is celebrated for all of the relationships he's had, but when Taylor does it, she's treated differently because she's a woman. So what she's trying to do, no, I don't think that this is true. I think both could be criticized as being, perpetually single and going through people like a catalog, like I just think that that's wrong.
But I'm not going to do that, because I actually have the same affliction as Leo, but in the opposite direction, who have been around since the railway was invented. Speaking of which, Robert De Niro and Harrison Ford are here.
So I didn't really think that I don't think she's funnier than CoJooy. It's just that the reaction is different, and maybe that's because she's a woman. Now, getting back to my commentary here, narcissists can be petty and vindictive, and Taylor is not above that either. In fact, she's herself has talked about how she can hold a grudge and things like this. For a narcissist, any form of criticism or feedback is rejected because they believe they are special, entitled, and unique. They have a fragile ego. Now, after making the joke about Taylor in the NFL, CoJooy got the icy death stare. He was immediately attacked, and so he had to give a response statement. He said, quote, "I was trying to make fun of the NFL using cutaways and how the Globes didn't have to do that, so it was more a jab toward the NFL, but it just didn't come out that way." Well, Taylor is well aware of how the NFL and media are playing up her alleged relationship with Travis Kelce, and so I want to go ahead and just show you some of her behavior at these games. So you could say, this is so cute, look how nice it is. Taylor is happy, she's excited. But again, keep in mind, this is a woman in her 30s. She's wearing the 87 on her hat. And I could be wrong, this may be nitpicking, but I'd like to know what you guys think. Is she over exaggerating her emotions here? Because she did this also at the Golden Globes when she lost to Barbie, the girl who played Margot Robbie, who played Barbie. She was up for an award in the same category. Barbie won the award, and Taylor does this big show of like being happy for Margot Robbie. She starts clapping for her. She's the first person to like stand up, and it just seemed over exaggerated because she knows the cameras are going to be on her. And I saw people commenting online of like, oh, look, the media, right? Oh, look how sweet Taylor is. What a good sport she is. She's the first person to support Margot Robbie after Margot beat her. She's so humble. I mean, she may just be very savvy and aware of how she is being presented. Here she is with Travis Kelce's mom and her friends at during the NFL here. And again, I see the same type of thing. It's like this exaggerated, like, is she really having that fun at a game? She's gone to these games how many times? And then wearing this gear. How long has she been in a relationship with Travis Kelce? Less than a year? And she's wearing his jersey number. Like, she's acting as if she's, once again, like I said, in this fairy tale that isn't real. And just looking through some of the pictures, here she is with the 87 on her hat. She's got another one where she's wearing it again. And then even on a bracelet, like, what are you, a 14-year-old? You're wearing like your good luck bracelet with your boyfriend's jersey number on it. Like, again, keep in mind that this is an adult woman in her 30s who has yet to get married or have children. And that's not to say she has to do that by any means, or that it's her fault that this hasn't happened yet. But it doesn't seem like it's a priority for her. Again, in that Miss Americana thing, she talked about traditional relationships as like that 1950s SHIT that everybody wants for me. So she just kind of acts like it's almost as if she was emotionally stunted at the age where she became famous, because you can imagine that when you're that wealthy and powerful, you can choose who to surround yourself with, and they're typically surrounded by people who are yes people, right? That just kind of tell them what they want to hear. So she knows full well that the NFL has been exploiting this relationship with Travis Kelce. For her to get upset about this very tame and mild joke, I think just reveals, number one, part of her narcissism, but it also reveals her lack of maturity for somebody her age, a woman in her 30s. If you can't laugh at yourself, that says a lot about you. It's nobody wants to be around somebody that isn't fun, and that any kind of, like, even a joke, a lighthearted joke, not even directed at them, but maybe even just about them, if that's enough to upset them and offend them, that says a lot about them, doesn't it? I think that most normal people don't take themselves too seriously, and they're able to laugh at themselves. And I think that that's a good thing. Learning to laugh at yourself. You know, she's not above criticism. Again, this is a very powerful, rich woman. She's a billionaire. She arguably is the music industry. She's arguably the most successful in the industry right now. Certainly the most successful female pop star of her generation. So, you know, for her to not be able at this point to laugh at yourself, to handle some criticism, that is very telling. And she comes off as kind of spoiled. And that's just my opinion. Again, I know that talking about Taylor can be controversial because her Swifties can act so crazy about her. And I'm sure, you know, I've seen even people on our side like defending her. I've seen people who, just because they really like her art and her music, they seem unable to objectively observe her. Or they personally get upset if somebody talks about, like, hey, she may not be really this persona that she puts on, which is, again, a carefully crafted brand image maintained and managed by a management company. And this is somebody who was born into privilege, has been raised with privilege their entire life, and yet likes to talk down to others about how uneducated and bigoted they are. Infantile understanding of geopolitics and the world. And just look at her most recent interview with Time Magazine, where she was given Woman of the Year award, which, again, to be fair to her, I think she's earned it. I think she's incredibly smart and talented. I think she is really, she's good at creating, like, and maintaining this brand, and she is a better role model for young children than so many other pop stars. She doesn't engage in some of the behavior that these other pop stars engage in, going out and partying at night, doing drugs, things like that. She has never promoted that image and never been about that. She's always promoted a more wholesome image. And so I have respect for her for that. But she also wields an incredible amount of influence. There was even a woman, one of her fans died coming to see her at her Eras tour in Brazil. Like, they're that fanatic. And so I think somebody who has that much influence over people, there should be greater responsibility on them. And one final thing I want to point out about this Travis Kelce thing is that that guy, he is sponsored by Pfizer. He was sponsored by Pfizer, and he was promoting the prick, if you all know what I mean, and how many people and their families and loved ones were harmed by that. So a lot of people think that this relationship isn't real, that it's fake, that it's a publicity stunt. And looking at her past relationships, I can see why people might speculate about that. I'm not really interested in that. I don't really care about it. I care more, again, about the behavior that we're witnessing here. And I think that she should learn to lighten up, to laugh, not take herself so seriously. She could have at least smiled, even if the joke wasn't funny. Like, none of those jokes were funny. Does it really hurt to kind of smile a little bit? Because she knows he was right. The joke was kind of more at the NFL, and she knows that. But I think that's why she took it so bad, because she knows she over exaggerates when she's up in that box. She knows she's kind of getting attention from it. And so, yeah, these are my thoughts. This has gotten pretty long, though. I'm interested to know what you guys think. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that her reaction wasn't really an overreaction? It was just the way that the camera panned, and or do you think that she was being kind of a cold, you know what? Anyways, that's it for now. Have a good day. Whee!